on that note, why don't you take us into your next company?
This one broke Twitter yesterday. So this company is called Lucite, Lucite AI. And I think of this as like Steve McLaughlin as a service, FT Partners as a service. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
You know those slides that you see, those investment banking analyst slides? Well, they're actually pretty hard to put together. You need to pull together a business overview. You need to pull in public data. You want to do a competitive analysis. You want to look at the metrics, recent M&A from their category. Like, there's a lot to pull into an FT Partners monthly. Now you can do it with like 3 clicks. So Lucite is free. You go to their website and you type in a company that you want to have a financial overview or a competitor analysis or something like that. And then you put in their stock ticker if they have one, and then you put in their website. You click a button, you wait a couple of minutes, and you get PowerPoint slides that look uncannily like investment banking analyst slides. Wow. What are UPenn interns going to do now? Like, it's just back to making coffee,
well,
guys.
I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, it's that's a really interesting example. And I saw you, I think you tweeted about it recently, and I was adding it to my list of cool things Simon has discovered that I'm going to go play with now over the weekend. But it is a really interesting example of, and we've talked a lot about like generative AI on the podcast broadly, but it's funny, you know, whenever you talk about generative AI, we talk about sort of, I call it over-eager intern as a service, right? Like, you know, really enthusiastic, energetic intern, doesn't necessarily get everything exactly right, but as a service, never gets tired. You can call it a million times and it'll just go do it, and it's just thrilled to
Which is
help
kind of all interns.
And it is absolutely all interns, right? I mean, like, when I my first job in fintech, I was an intern, and I swear I was like a labradoodle, just like sprinting through the hallways, ramming into stuff, knocking stuff over, making huge messes that other people had to clean up. Like, I wasn't like the glorious paragon of efficiency that I am today, Simon, but I was eager, and I like to think on balance I was helpful. And I guess the thing I'm really curious about here is we keep conceiving of what generative AI can do as removing the sort of the lowest rung of kind of low value human work, where there's that level of judgment and sort of discernment, but it's not something that you're ever going to pay, you know, $1,000 an hour for. But I do think there is this bias to assuming that when we say that, oh yeah, but that's like someone else's low value work. That's not my low value work. My low value work is actually high value work, right? And so you think about it in the context of someone doing like data entry at a community bank or something, right? And it's like, okay, like maybe that person isn't going to work anymore. I don't think that undergraduates of prestigious universities are necessarily thinking that this was going to replace them, but there was no real reason to assume that, like, generative AI doesn't care, right? Like, data entry for a community bank, compiling information for a board meeting, and you know, compiling information for investment slides that are going to go to, you know, senior partners and investment bankers. You know, generative AI doesn't really make that distinction. So even though in society we might draw distinctions between those two and how much we pay people to do those work, we don't really draw that same distinction when it comes to the technology. So this is kind of breaking my brain a little bit.
Right? A little bit. Now, standard disclaimers apply for anything AI related, which is number one, this is done with publicly available APIs on GPT-4, right? So
yes,
why couldn't anybody just go build this? In fact, they already are.
Yeah.
Somebody reached out to me to say that Microsoft is working with the London Stock Exchange Group to make this a default option for investment banks as part of PowerPoint with Microsoft Copilot. They're going to be fine.
Makes sense.
Somebody else reached out to me, a man who runs, I forget the name of his M&A company. I think it's Parkhurst. They have Capital IQ, which is a whole other platform, and you can just build a dashboard pretty quickly that produces a lot of this sort of stuff. But that's not free, and it's not publicly available, and it doesn't just need an email address to get it done. There's a democratization element that's going on that's kind of powerful. So there's all of the AI disclaimers, but I think the most important thing about this is like the cost and energy involved of producing it with 3 clicks was still pretty great. The fact is, anybody anywhere around the world can now do this almost instantly, and that's pretty cool. The second point, though, is if you actually go look at these slides, they're very generic, and it's okay. But the real value Steve FT Partners adds is his industry experience, his knowledge, his understanding of the transactions that are not public domain, therefore the market pricing, his ability to arbitrage that, his ability to broker. Really, this is making the first job of his marketing slightly more efficient. It's not necessarily making everything else right and accurate and kind of there. But you think about that culture of getting your investment analyst job. You go work for a Blackstone, you go work for a Morgan Stanley. Like your first year, your first 3 years, they work the analysts. It's 100-hour weeks. It's all of that. It's almost like a rite of passage. How many analysts will pay for something like this on the side to look good in front of bosses? Like the quiet AI use is absolutely a thing, especially for low-hanging fruit, and it is a skill issue. But I just wonder where all of this leads to. So it might not be this company, it might appear somewhere else. But what I love is a tangible example that you can get your head around. I did this with on buy now, pay later provider Affirm. I stuck those up on social, and everyone's like, whoa. And I was even blown away by how quick it was. And the fact that I might actually use this to just pull together the basic data that I need because it's kind of nice. Rather than using something like a data wrapper where I'd have way more control, but I need to select the data set and I need to, like, anything that reduces the friction tends to get used more because humans are lazy and stupid. And I'm definitely both of those things.
No. You are brilliant and hardworking, but speaking for the lazy, stupid population, I totally agree. And I think that the challenge, as you articulated, right, is a lot of the value is like, as you said, data, right? Like Steve knows things that other people don't know, and it's not public and it's not on the internet. And so, and you apply that broadly to things like AI, and it's like, what private proprietary data set do you have that no one else has? And then what can AI do on top of that data set? And I think that that's a really, really good observation.